Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, we are live for session number 19 of the Galfond challenge match between Phil Galfond and Actionfreak. Phil coming into today up 405k with just 1.7k hands to go. And today in the commentary booth, I'm joined by a man whose online graph resembles Mount Everest. Rumor has it, at birth, the first words that came out of his mouth were Monkasolver. It's none other than Bluff the Spot's head PLO coach, Runchuks. Runchuks, how you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm laughing to be honest, but thanks for introduction. I learned a few things about myself, but real happy to be here. Yeah.
Phil in the tank. Haven't seen him 3-bet fold. Well, how about 3-bet to then 5-bet for 60k pot of the day potentially? Although having said that, Runchuks Freak has had some 4-bet folds so far throughout this challenge.
Well, the money's going in on this board, clearly. I mean, on every board pretty much, but let's see. Phil is thinking about it.
Yeah,
I'm not
SPR
sure why.
0.2. SPR 0.2. Freak tanking. Has he completely whiffed this? He got like ace jack 10-9 even still, I feel like. Or yeah, ace jack 9-8. Wow.
Oh, he got there.
Wow.
He got there twice.
Actionfreak.
Oh,
With the gut shot of backdoor diamonds, they run it twice. Hits runner straight on the first run out and pings the gut shot on the turn on the second board. 68k pot going his way. But let's say, for argument's sake, that one of these guys had that huge 10 big blind edge. To then be able to look at a variance graph and say that that person with the edge is still going to lose over 15k hands 20% of the time. I don't know, man. I'm thinking of going back to university and just like quitting poker because that's insane. Like to have that kind of edge and that like variance can exist and will happen 1 in 5 times is I still can't get my head around it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but 15,000 hands is nothing, as many people are pointing out in the chat. I mean, if poker is your full-time occupation,
yeah,
I mean, 15,000 hands, how long does it take you, right? If we start talking about like 100,000 hands, 500,000 hands, the variance obviously levels down, if that's the right way to put it. And by the way, look what's happening on the right.
they're clicking buttons, Runchuks. They've come in to click buttons for the day.
3-bet by Phil in a tiny pot, and wow, he takes it down.
That's insane. I think that was a 4-bet on the flop. It was a check raise from Phil, Freak then 3-bet, and Phil with the min 4-bet. I love it.
Wow.
They're like, all right, boys, let's
pretty crazy.
Let's click some buttons. But with 1.7k hands, I mean, how are you feeling if you're in Actionfreak shoes coming into this final 1.7k?
Well, I mean, the only thing he can control is how he plays today and how he plays tomorrow. And that's all he should be focusing on. I suppose the result is irrelevant. Also, like, this challenge doesn't have the odds on the side bet, which makes it much easier, right? They can play it out to the last hand. So Actionfreak, well, he's focusing on one thing only, just play his hands the best he can and see what happens.
We're on table Nerdy Gangster. Hawkeye Daniel saying 3-bet pot in Paradise really does sound like a high stakes poker table. You got to give the credit to Runchuks, big pot on Paradise. Talk of the devil. Freak with the check pile. Phil in the tank being asked the question if he wants to play for stacks. He does. Strap yourselves in, boys and girls. Second 60k pot of the day. Wow. We are in great shape. This time, Freak needing to find a 1-outer Second 4-bet of the day. Expect to see a small sizing from Freak on this board.
I expect him to check a lot, but in terms of sizing, he can go both ways. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he is mixing his strategy on a board like this. He does go for a small sizing, but you know it's not inconceivable that he would have a larger sizing there as well. Although there's no flush draw, so yeah, probably just most of his hands go small. But that being said, there's just a lot of checking going on.
Claude saying, Henry, looking forward to football, mate. Not a huge football fan, to be honest with you, Claude. More of a tennis fan. I'm looking forward to hopefully. Well, we're not going to get Wimbledon this year, but US Open later on in the year. Hopefully, we'll get that.
Let's see what happens in the 3-bet pot in Paradise. This is basically the third time we see it in quick succession. That in the 3-bet pot, Phil's flop. Well, the flop comes like a low pair and another low card. Those are pretty tough to play out of position. Especially the guy started with what was it, like 130 big blinds to begin with?
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets real tricky. And well, Phil keeps calling. Well, let's see what happens now.
And Freak with the pot size bet on the turn, 32k in the middle. Phil with 24.5 behind. We never get to lead this run out, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I say never, but
yeah, I think it's probably almost negligible. So yeah, you should simplify to not lead.
Phil deep in the tank, thinking of something. Oh, tank check. Action on Mr. Freak. Trying to think of natural bluffs. Gives up with the 4-5, or the deuce 4-5 wrap, I should say, and 8s are good. Phil picking up the nut flush draw on the turn by the looks of things. Phil continuing with the trend that he has set throughout this match. The 1/6 sizing on the paired board after 3-betting pre.
Well, he does vary on different board textures, though.
On paired boards at close to 100.
Oh, on pair boards. Sorry, yeah,
yeah.
I missed that part. On pair boards, yeah, that's the size he goes for.
Lala saying, is this the penultimate day? It is indeed. Came into today with 1,700 hands left to be played. Freak again, putting Phil in a really tough spot. Setting up a river jam by betting pot on the 5 of hearts turn. What are your thoughts on this river, Runchuks? Who do you think it favors more?
Who does it favor more? I think it just changes the frequency with which Actionfreak is going to continue here. But once he raises,
Oof.
wow, yeah. All right, let's see the 3-bet pot on the Nerdy Gangster. Interesting board. This is going to be, most likely some money is going in at some point. Really connected. And Phil goes with a small sizing. That I'm slightly surprised to see. Bunch of draws get here on the turn. If Phil does continue, I would assume he needs to either go with the large sizing, but very often he's gonna check. Now, Actionfreak doesn't need to go with the large sizing. It would be interesting for him to try to get the stack to pot ratio to around 1 by the river, but that being said, he can definitely apply a lot of pressure with the smaller sizing, going with a lot of, mergy hands, checks through, and on a 7 of clubs, I mean, if Phil's gonna bet, yeah, this one's difficult. He should be able to bet large, so basically go for pot here, but he's quite incentivized to go for a check and try to, although it's going to be hard to, induce a bluff from Actionfreak, because by now he's going to be checking back a lot, and I'm curious to see if he does bet, what sizing he chooses in a situation like this. All right, chooses to polarize, and yeah, Phil is in another tough spot. I would assume Phil still has some check raises in his arsenal here. Yeah, Actionfreak does show up with the nuts. And we're about to see a 4-bet. Yep, 4-bet flop. Let's see, Phil checks.
Potential for an 80k pot. Jack 8 deuce 2-tone.
I would assume this is a type of board texture where Phil would occasionally have a leading range. So now that he checks, we'll see. But very often, Actionfreak is just going to end up winning this one.
Been a while since we've seen Phil take down a big one. Folding out in that 4-bet pot, Freak, with a very sexy looking red line so far today. Up around 110k on the day so far. Sounds like you're in a dream spot, Runchuks. Can hear the birds chirping. That must be some GTO place to grind poker.
Yeah, it is. It is. I like it. Actually, today earlier, I had a call with somebody during the day, and I heard birds on his end. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh wow, are these birds on your side?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I'll try to close the window or something." I was like, "No, no, don't worry about it. It's just everybody is always pointing out like, dude, there's birds on your end." So I was so happy to hear somebody else having it. So yeah, it was. It's a thing.
It's a pretty GTO environment to grind in. Must be so chill. Freak bet 1/3. on the turn. Double paired board, hearts bricking, 5, 6, 7 bricking. SPR less than 2. Freak playing his check. The 3 betting pre and barreling twice. There is such an intricate part of the game tree right now. I mean, this is just so interesting to me. See Phil call 2 streets and come out betting half pot on this run out on the river.
Actionfreak definitely thinking about it.
Phil Galfond winning one at Showdown, 27k pot. Deep pot over on Nerdy Gangster. Queen 5 tray 2-tone. Feel the effect around 150 bigs. Half pot call. Jack of diamonds rolling off on the turn.
Yeah, Actionfreak has been applying a lot of pressure on these flush turns after he c-bet in a 3-bet pot. We see that's like the 3rd time at least that we see this.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. He's been using a smaller sizing on these turns as well, around 1/3.
Yeah, that's right. He does go for pot on the river, which obviously makes sense. There's no longer any incentive for him to try to introduce a small size in his range. But Phil is thinking about it. I mean, that king is a type of card where a lot of people would bluff a bit too much. Definitely not Actionfreak. He's going to still be pretty balanced in the situation, but clearly Phil has a decision to make. And it's just good that he has it on this table as opposed to the other one, because there he would just time out already like some 10 seconds ago.
Yeah. So why is that King of Hearts a good card to bluff on, continue bluffing?
Oh,
Even
no,
though
I don't think
there's
it's a
a
good
flush
card to
board.
continue bluffing. I just think a lot of people overdo it. Right, because a lot of
Okay.
people might see it okay, like many of the 2 pairs are no longer top 2 pair, or like
Yep.
say a queen something doesn't look that good anymore. All of those reasons, and all, of course, Actionfreak is not gonna think in these terms, but a lot of people would.
Missed the turn action on Table Paradise due to the big pot we had on Nerdy Gangster. Freak playing his check. Phil bets pot. 6, 7, Jack 7, and Queen Jack completing on the river. Gets through.
understand that basically if you're playing your game, you know how you play. You arrive at these situations where, because like, look at it, how many situations we have like on the river or something where the line is obscure, yet both players sort of know what they're doing. Their ranges seem to be balanced. If you start deviating at some point, like you're gonna start applying aggression early in the streets, your whole game plan is off. Right? It's not really in his interests. Like, why would he? Because it would be pretty suicidal mission of like, okay, I need to play to win the match, so I need to win back like 300,000 or a bit less than that at the stage, right? As opposed to just, okay, I have to play my A game, I have to play the best poker I can, and with the variance, it's very possible that he would win the
Yeah.
400k, right? But there's no reason to increase the variance just for the sake of trying to get back to that little, $1 win on the hand 15,000th, right?
Yeah, and as you said, if you do deviate, you're going to end up just putting yourself in some spots or weird spots that you're just unfamiliar with.
Yeah, exactly. And it just doesn't serve any purpose. Like from what we see, both players are quite evenly matched. Um, so as long as, each one of them should be just striving to play the A game. And
Mm.
that's pretty much it. Just play your best and forget the rest. How about that for a slogan?
Got an interesting hand developing. Freak check raised the 9-5-4 two-tone board. Continued on the turn for 1/3. Phil tagging along till the 6 of hearts river. 16,350 out there. Another small bet from Freak. I was surprised to see Freak choose this sizing, given the action so far. I guess with that hand, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, to
What you
be honest, I kind of missed the whole thing there because I was looking at my son trying to break into my office.
down 3 binds or what have you. It comes with the territory. It's part of the game, especially in heads-up PLO and the variance. Any questions or queries, feel free to fire them in the chat. You guys have been pretty quiet today. Been pretty quiet. Thomas Ace King Ace Queen saying, is the Galfond challenge a public event? Like everyone with a bankroll can challenge him. So as far as I'm aware, anyone could challenge Phil. The only people that weren't allowed to challenge him were Run It Once Poker elite coaches, which makes a ton of sense. So the challenge was an open invitation to other coaches and other players. Not saying that everyone came to an agreement, because obviously there is a side bet and odds going on and the amount of hands that people want to play, etc. And it's a massive commitment as well. I mean, this is session number 19 of this match. This is only 15k hands. The Veni Vidi match was what, 45 sessions or something ridiculous like that. Come on, saying, Henry, should I go to Thailand for my post-COVID vacation as my buddies want to, or should I push for Bali? Depends what you're into, man. I'd personally recommend Bali. Each to their own. A Freak with the turn gut shot. Phil with top pair and a wrap breaking. 3-bet pot over on table paradise. Jack 8 tray, rainbow. Phil playing as check. Cooking it saying I'm going to have to message Henry on Instagram every few days just to see how mum and dad are. Big Malak saying, Henry, what would you give as odds for Phil to lose this challenge? I would say he is a 90% favorite to win this. So I'll give you similar odds. Phil with the check pile. Razor Ruski. Richard Gator likes to put it in. Freak says, let's play for stacks. Yeah. 67k pot. Phil with the overpair, backdoor diamonds and gut shot. Freak with the flopped set and straight blocker. Oh boy.
Yeah. I was for a
60k pot.
second there thinking that, well, it goes Phil's way, but nope.
Set against set with a flush draw. $80k pot going Freak's way. Phil down 200k on the day so far. Joe saying he's throwing the computer out the effing window count as switching the computer off. I mean, the result's the same, right? You don't play any more hands, so guess it does count. Phil, interestingly, paying 5.5k here, not setting up a river jam. $19k in the middle. Well, that's the sizing we like to see from Phil.
Well, what we really like to see is Actionfreak tanking instead of... All right. Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you on both points. It's best not to change the seed. There's really no reason. It's just superstition. And, even if you think you can gain an edge by switching your seed, it's not a good thing, Better not.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Don't get me wrong, I definitely used to do it. Especially if I had like a lineup of like 3 solid regs on my left or what have you. But now I'm just the best reg at the table.
Nice. Well, let's see. I was about to say we potentially have a big pot brewing, but nope. Ari's saying he likes seat 2, seat 8, just to get the reads off on people. Yeah.
Milan saying sick brag, Henry. I was only joking, man. Definitely not the best reg at the table.
Actually, speaking of what Ari is suggesting, he likes the seat 2, seat 8. I think like if you have a seat preference and the seat is taken, there's no problem if you just announce to everybody like, guys, when I get a chance, I would like to move to that seat ahead of the time, and if you're consistent, if everybody knows that that's your thing, there's no problem there. Except if you actually don't move when it's inconvenient for you, right? That's a dick move.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Pot size bet from Freak getting picked off.
Yay.
LFGPG. 54k pot going Phil's way with the second nuts. Freak with, was that a 6 and a queen blocker? D Wood saying half this game. Half this game is 90% mental. Okay. Thank you for your comment. Well, the other half is what? 10% game theory. Future like saying, you're like playing your absolute best when you're down 15 buy-ins in your session.
That's true.
I don't normally get to that point in a session where I'm down 15 buy-ins. I normally switch the computer off. Do you have a stop loss on any given session?
Nope, because I try to not to keep track of the results. So it's kind of hard to like. I mean, obviously in live poker it's much easier because you know how many rebuys you did,
Yeah.
at least roughly. Otherwise, you shouldn't be at the table if you're not aware of what's going on. But nah, normally I don't put a stop loss.
Philly G setting up natural river SPR to get all the money in. There's 7 of diamonds turn. Moonlight Master, you could rot, mate. Oh man. Let's see if Phil continues with the story he was telling on the turn by putting Freak all in. A couple of straights getting there on this 4 of diamonds. River. And he does go for all the biscuits. And a quick fold from Freak.
Moonlight Master is right. Like the momentum discussion is mostly about the definition of what momentum is.
Yeah. It's very true. Because the people that I'm, having a constructive debate with are the people that believe if you've won 5 hands in a row kind of thing, you're going to win hand number 6. That's the momentum that I don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe in psychological momentum, and if you are keeping tracks, if you're the type of person that is keeping tracks of results, and you fire up your HUD halfway through a session and see that you're down 8 buy-ins or whatever, it could certainly have an impact on your approach to the game going forward. You're trying to claw back some of them losses, or vice versa. If you're up, start getting a bit loosey-goosey pre-flop. Marty focusing ahead of everything you do at the poker table conveys information. Whilst you're
I think we lost you there, Henry. Or is it just me anyway? I can't hear Henry. Henry disappeared, but Actionfreak checked in a 3-bet pot on an ace 10-7. The c-bet frequency is usually pretty high on this type of board texture, so it's interesting to see how this one's going to play out. The 7 doesn't change much. 7 really shouldn't help either player at this stage.
Oh, look at this check jam from Phil.
Set over set. Oh man, that 9 on the river.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chop it up. Just received word from Runner Once Nick that Phil is down 120k on the day. Could have been 90k had he managed to fade the 5 outer.
Obviously, solver work helps a lot. I like to work on theory, and yeah, solvers are amazing, great tool. But there's so many other aspects. Like I think a lot of people underestimate how important the mental game is, and all those aspects of poker. In fact, that's why most of my podcasts are with people from that field of poker. The mental game coaches, etc., because those topics, whatever you play, PLO, Hold'em, any game really. If you don't have proper routines, proper habits, proper approach, if you're not oriented on the process enough, if your process is unclear, if your decision making as such is inconsistent, it's pretty irrelevant how much theory you learn. You're not going to be a winning player.
Yeah, it's why I touched on the A game poker masterclass on Run It Once earlier on, just taking advantage of the non-strategic edges in poker, and I think they are often overlooked by a lot of people, because it's just not something that people naturally move towards when they think of how to improve their poker game. They think, right, I need to study GTO. I need to have solid fundamentals, pre-flop ranges, and all that jazz. And they often neglect the mental side of it. Oh boy, Phil Galfond with the check rizzle over on Paradise. Things you love to see. 20 minutes left on the clock. Gonna have some traps over on Nerdy Gangster as well. And when you fade the snap, it'd be so sick if Phil just shows up with like King 5-4 here.
Well, this is Phil, and he can, but I wonder what Actionfreak has, because he does seem to use. Well, let's see how deep he goes into his time bank, but definitely a tough decision for him. Well, 10, for those of you who don't know what time is 10, it's in 8 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds pretty perfect. I mean, they don't really finish bang on 10 o'clock anyway. It always extends by a few minutes. So even if we didn't go into overtime, if they finish at 3 minutes past, I'll make sure to ramble on for a couple of minutes to make sure that your delay is caught up. And yeah, we'll chill out a bit and then come and join you in 30 minutes time or so.
Awesome.
Really hope I get put at the same table as you.
Hey man, that would be cool, but I will not know who's who, right? So
well, I'll let you know.
Well, you let me know. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'm in seat 3 or whatever, or I'm 2 seats to your left. Well, don't worry, man. If I jump in, I'll make sure I let you know.
Yeah. No, I'm not worried. It's just it will be more fun if I know, because then I can, insta mark you as a fish. Have some fun around it.
He's not worried, chat. The snap. Don't worry, Henry. It's fine. I don't mind if I don't know who you are. I'm not worried. Holy shit. Shots
Hey, my
being
goal
fired.
today is to have fun. I'm, you know.
All right,
not
bang,
about
bang. I see
win or
how it
lose.
is. Bluff the spot, head coach, head PLO coach. I see how it is. No respect. Cooking it saying, lol, insta marked as a fish, savage. Yeah, I mean, I'll
Can you
take
even
it.
mark people? Because you can't mark, right? It's all
No.
anonymous. Well, you can mark within one session, I suppose, but then it's gone, or how does it work? I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm so
disappears.
excited to find out how it works. And Jesus, look at this pot.
Phil with a pot size bet on the turn, following through on the river. Let's get some LFG PGs in the chat one time. 65k in the middle with freak calls. Have ourselves a $97,000 pot. Hopefully going Phil's way, and that is not a good sign. That is not a good sign.
Yeah, not at all.
104k in the middle, similar to a pot we played yesterday where Freak was caught potting and was given 32-1 odds on a call when Phil jammed over the top and folded. Phil not quite getting 32-1 on a call, closer to 15, but yeah. Heroic said, why is Phil not snap called yet? Well, because even when we're getting 15-1 for bluffing with a hand like Jack 10, you know, it's no point flicking in the extra 7k. 7k is 7k. Straps yourselves in, boys and girls. Looks like we are going into overtime. Normally sat out by now. Hawk, I tell you, where on earth did you get that middle name from? One for the good guys. We will take it. 66k pot. Set over set. Freak with one out. Going to the river. There we go. And Freak snap sitting out, which will mean after the hand has played out on the Paradise, which it has. Let's get some GGs in the chat. It's been a rough day, that's for sure. Things not going Phil's way. But to summarize, we're going into tomorrow's final 800 hands up around about 230k. So up around 7.5 buy-ins with 800 hands left. Big day tomorrow for both Actionfreak and Phil. Phil going for back-to-back wins in this challenge. Freak looking to come back and pull off one of the sickest comebacks of all times